Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. Today I'll be sharing with you some of the gear that I used for UTMB. It's not the benchmark, but it's what I used and what worked for me, and maybe it can give you some inspiration for your gear as you're sifting through these final details in the preparation for this incredible race. I won't be explaining all the technicalities of every piece of gear because I think there's so many videos out there that can do that much better than me, but at least I'll show you what worked, what I used, and what helped me basically get to the finish line. So I'll start off with the shoes, because obviously that's a common theme in trail running. We're always wondering what's the best shoe to take out there. I don't think there's any best shoe because everyone has a different opinion on that. So I'll just tell you what I was wearing throughout my preparation races, but also during UTMB. And my go-to shoe for UTMB was definitely the Hoka Speedgoat 5. Which is here, and I actually had used the Hoka Speedgoat 4 as well before the new version came out, and both of them worked really well. I mean, the grip it had on those trails was good because it has this this special grip, what do they call, the Vibram sole, which is excellent. So I never really had any issues except in very, very extreme conditions with mud and you know, heavy rain and that sort of stuff, but then nothing would probably be able to get any grip. So, but these ones were really excellent. So Speedgoat 5 for me was definitely the go-to shoe for UTMB. In terms of clothing, my go-to brand was Path Projects. I discovered it through Billy Yang, so I was probably a little bit influenced by his videos as well. But to be honest, they had some really good stuff in there, and I obviously used a lot of their caps here. So I used to change them. Here's actually even Billy Yang's cap that he created with Path Projects, and I just find them to be really comfortable, snug, and yeah, really breathable. So definitely a great cap. And I used a lot of the other gear as well that they have. So I used the baseliners, which were excellent, super comfortable. Now, the only issue I had with the baseliners that I discovered is that in extreme weather conditions, so with a lot of rain or a lot of humidity, I still was experiencing chafing. So there might be other alternatives out there. I'll be exploring that. But at UTMB, absolutely zero issues. It wasn't too humid and it wasn't raining, and those baseliners were excellent. Their shorts as well are really, really good. I used them throughout pretty much all my races since I started trail running. And let's not forget that I went from pretty much a zero running in 2019 or close to zero running in 2019 to getting into the trail running scene in 2020 and then really starting seriously in 2021 before I got into UTMB for 2023. And I used Path Projects gear, so baseliners, shorts, pretty much throughout my trail running experiences. So really great brands. I can't recommend them enough. As for the t-shirts, I went to a brand called Decathlon, which I'm not sure if they have it in the US. I think they do, but they might not have the same range of products like we have in Europe. But they had really good and cheaper gear, because I also used the Salomon t-shirts. And to be honest, the difference between the quality of a Decathlon and the Salomon, I didn't really feel it for the difference in price between the two. And Salomon gear was really expensive for the t-shirts, and I'm not sure it really justifies the price. So I'd rather go on to the lower end of the spectrum, the price spectrum for the t-shirts. And Decathlon t-shirts were really, really good, and I'm still using them even today in my training runs, and they'll be my go-to t-shirts going forward. So for the cold weather gear, I also went to Decathlon. Now what I went for is some very bright fluorescent gear that they have there, just for the safety sort of side of things. You know, when you're at night in the mountains, having something a little bit more bright on the brighter side could be beneficial just for the security. So that's what I was using even in training. Keeps me warm. And they have these nice little warm, basically jackets that they have that you can put in a little pouch, and it fits nice and snug in the in your pack, in the Salomon pack. And I'll get to that in a bit. But basically it becomes this nice jacket here. So it's got a hood, keeps you warm. I thought it was a pretty nice product from Decathlon. So that was my go-to jacket for the cold weather, especially high up in altitude. So for the wet weather gear, I used the Salomon Bonatti wet weatherproof gear. It was really good because it goes into this nice little pouch which fits as well nicely in your pack. And I've used this actually really often in my training runs, and especially to work against the winds, but it's also extremely wet weatherproof, which was what I was looking for. And then it's really lightweight and super breathable. So this is how it looks like when we unfold it. I mean, you have all the information on the website, but that's the one I went for my wet weather gear. But I also, as I mentioned, used it when it was really windy and not cold enough for a heavy jacket, but some sort of intermediary layer with something a little bit warmer, like the fluorescent warm weather clothes from Decathlon. And I just put that over, and that kept me really, really warm. I used it a lot in the UTMB and the mountain passes at night, and when we were at the top of those passes where it was quite exposed to wind and it was cold. So definitely for me, that's one of the key pieces of gear for your pack. Definitely don't go without it, because I really highly recommend it for the winds and the rain. So as we stay in the cold weather gear, I used these beanies. This one is from Mammut, which was pretty good, but I also used the Salomon beanie, which was pretty good. I think for the price it was quite good, kept me warm as well. It stays nice and snug close to your ears, so I thought those two products were extremely useful. In terms of gloves, I used the Forclaz gloves, these ones. A really good product. I think I got them at Decathlon as well, so those ones kept me nice and warm. As for the waterproof gloves, there I went to Salomon with these small guys here that wrap up in a ball. They're pretty lightweight, easy to tuck into your pack. But I didn't have to use them actually in any of the races, but it's pretty useful to have them just in case. They're pretty comfortable. They fit really well on the hand, and you have this option to actually take out these little fingers here. So yeah, haven't really used them much, but I thought they were really practical, light for what they are. Then in terms of headlamps, I went for the Phoenix brand. They've always been very good with their product range, I found, and they really do specialized headlamps for the trail running. So I went for the HM65 RT version of their headlamps, which is this one here. I found it to be extremely useful. It's a bit on the heavy side, but to be honest, I used it in all my ultra races, 100K, 100 mile at UTMB. And I had two of them for the race, so I had just a spare one just in case. I think it's in the mandatory list of things to have. And what is good is that they have these rechargeable batteries. So this was I found it really useful to be able to just keep them separate, and some of them are even chargeable, some of the batteries, so really definitely an excellent headlamp to go with. You have different options of luminosity. I won't go into the details because there's loads of videos out there that can teach you about all the different specificities of this headlamp, but that one was my go-to, the HM65 RT headlamp from Phoenix. As a backup headlamp, I had the HL18R from Phoenix again, which is a lighter version of their headlamp, but and I use a lot actually for the training runs. So when I have early morning runs, this is the one I use. It has less battery length, but for training runs they were good, and as a backup lamp it was also a good option. So I had that one in my drop bag just in case. In terms of poles, big question I think that a lot of us ask ourselves. So when I started trail running, I started on the Black Diamonds, the Carbon Z I think they're called. And these actually are the same ones I started using in 2020, 2021. And they've been really, really resistant and excellent gear that has stood the test of time. But they're a little bit on the heavier side compared to other products. And that's when I started looking at other brands, and when I orientated myself to the Lecky brands, because I saw, obviously, like many of you, a lot of trail runners with the Lecky brand. And I decided to try it out, and actually it's turned out to be excellent. But the problem is with the Lecky poles, They're light, but they're a little bit more fragile. But they're really good poles, so I'd really recommend them, especially for your races. I think for training you can use the Black Diamond Carbon Z. They're much more rigid and they'll last longer. You don't need to have such a light weight piece of gear with you. But for the races, I think Lecky are really good. So I used the Lecky poles for UTMB, and it really made a difference, I think, especially with their glove system here. So you have this little clip here. I think they call it the shark system or something like that, which is pretty good because you can just clip it in like that and then just pull on this glove without actually having to push with your hands, which is I thought really convenient. So Lecky poles, my go-to pole for UTMB. And when we talk poles, we also talk about quiver, so where to put your poles. Some people have this belt that they put behind. I never found it really either comfortable or practical. I like the Salomon quiver. So when I started out, I started with their base model, this one. But the problem is, the opening was always, I found, a little bit flimsy, and I was always having a little bit of trouble trying to put my poles in, because it's not really round and open, so it was always sort of embarrassing trying to get my poles in and not being able to shove them in. So that was on the downside of the initial Salomon quiver here. But luckily, Salomon, I think, got some feedback from people using it who had the same problem. And so they came out with a new version of the quiver. So they came out with the Ultra brands. And this one was really good because the opening for the quiver is much more rigid. So it's not as flimsy. It doesn't, so it stays open. The roundness is there, and it's much easier to slide in the poles with this version. So this is what I used for UTMB, and it really was excellent. So definitely the quiver for UTMB, the Salomon Ultra version was really good. And so in order to keep my bib on me, I used the Compress Sport bib holder, and I think you can use it for to place I think gels and stuff, but I didn't use it for that. But what I really liked is these little pieces that holds specifically the bib. Just made it easier. I didn't have to, make any holes in my t-shirts to hold it with any pins or anything. So I just found this really useful, and this is what I've been using for all my races. It doesn't really annoy me to run. It can probably annoy some people because the bib is then on the front. Some people put the bib on the back. I mean, I had it always on the front. I like it when people are encouraging you and they see your bib and they say your name. And that really gives you a boost of energy when people say your name to encourage you in a difficult patch of the race. Which they can't do if you put your bib on the back, so it's not quite the same thing. So I prefer keeping it on the front. And this Compress Sport belt pretty much helps keep it nice and snug there. Now the elephant in the room, the pack. And there I've never really had any hesitation. I've always used the Salomon Advanced Skin 12 packs that they have. I think the capacity is perfect for ultra running. They have pockets everywhere. I won't go down all the specificities of the pack because, again, there's a lot of videos out there that show you all the information. But that was my go-to pack. I had the Racing Flag pack of Salomon, and with its the flasks that slide in, I never had any real issues with it. I mean, this one's now a little bit worn and torn because it's gone through many miles and falls and loads of adventures. So but it's still a really good pack, even though it's a little bit worn. It's still holding the test of time, so I really enjoy it. Maybe some of you, like me, like taking the GoPro with them to capture all the moments of this incredible adventure. And I was testing different setups to hold my GoPro, and I had played with a couple of different ways of keeping it on me. And the problem I found with GoPros is that if I have to go into a pocket and fish it out and and film, usually when I'm in a very tough spot in a race, I just don't find the energy to pull it out, and I just don't film. So what I try to do right from the start is having a piece of gear that could hold it constantly in a position that would enable me just to press the button and film on the go. And so I toyed around with different setups. The first setup I had, which worked okay, was having the GoPro chest mount. So this is the GoPro chest mount, which I used in my early days and most of my races. But when I did the Trail Verbier-Saint-Bernard, I think it was like a 80K and 5,000 meters D+, on that last tough climb that we had to do, I was having a lot of troubles breathing and I didn't understand why. And it was because of this mount. This mount was pressing against my chest here. And basically, I wasn't able to breathe as much, and therefore I decided to take it off, and all of a sudden I was much better and I was able to finish that race in a good condition. But it made me think maybe this is not the best way, even though for the shorter races it worked perfectly fine. I figured that for UTMB that was not going to be good enough. So I changed the system. And what I came up with is a mount, a GoPro mount, basically on the strap of the Salomon Advanced Skin. Basically, I hold it here, just on the top where the flask sits, just a little higher. I have this little setup where you can just flip it here, and it's this little slide in. So basically, with the GoPro, you can just put it here and you just slide it in and then secure it like this with this little piece here. And that made the trick. It was able to hold it. And for me, it worked pretty well. I mean, for UTMB, it was perfect. I didn't have that pressure on my chest with the chest mounts. So I thought that was a pretty good setup that I will continue using going forward, so I don't have to put it in the pockets. Now, the only issue with this, because I've tested it on marathons and semi-marathons, and it doesn't work as well if I have a pack there and you're running quite fast. It bounces around quite a bit, so it's not ideal, but it's better than the chest mount I found. So I'll be playing around with that setup for my next races as well. Now, piece of advice, tips and tricks, well, you probably already know it, but I'll probably repeat it just in case for those who haven't thought of it. When you put your clothes and your extra layers in your pack, you'll be sweaty or it'll be raining and it'll get wet. So what I chose to do is to get a bag, an extra bag, sort of a dry bag, where I put all my clothes and anything that I don't want to get wet in these little pouches that you can, once you've taken the air out, it can really compress quite nice and tightly into your pack. And for me, this was a savior in all the races, especially UTMB, because I even changed shirts at some point, just to feel a little bit fresher, when you're really deep into the race. You're feeling a little bit down, and just changing a shirt sometimes can change your mindset and feel all of a sudden a little extra energy just because you're feeling that little bit more fresh than before. So that worked for me. Now, another vital piece of gear that was incredibly powerful in my races has been the watch. So this was definitely one of my most important pieces of gear. And from the start, I went out with Garmin, and I started out with the Phoenix 6, I think it was, and then I switched for UTMB for the Enduro 2. So this watch has been really fantastic. I found it to have many functionalities, especially the Pace Pro and the fact that it gets recharged with the sunlight, and it has the battery. The battery is just incredible. It has such an autonomy. You don't need to worry about recharging it. Let's not forget that it took me nearly 45 hours to get around the Mont Blanc, and I still had enough battery for a week or something like that in full GPS mode. So I was using that on top of it. It also was running the Pace Pro plan that I had set in there. I think I wanted to do 43 hours or something like that. So I had the Pace Pro going, and I had the GPS mode going. And despite all of that, at the end of the race, after 45 hours, it still had a week's worth battery. So for me, that was the biggest selling points. I won't go into all the functionalities of this great watch, because again, there's many videos out there that can tell you a lot more and a lot better, all the specificities of this incredible watch. But this one has been definitely my go-to watch for that event. Now, in terms of nutrition, that's another big one. It's very specific, obviously, to everyone, and you need to try out what works for you. We're all different, we know. So I'm just going to tell you what I used, what worked for me, and what sort of strategy I followed. In my experience, you need to find a strategy whereby what you eat is not going to make you feel sick, not make you feel tired of what you're eating. So I chose to go with different brands just to mix up the textures, the flavors, etc., and use the aid stations as a complement to what I was taking with me. And the goal was really to continue consuming on the go throughout the race to keep those calories up as high as possible, because we know what it is when we start bunking. It's already too late. So I was trying to force myself to intake as many calories as I could continuously throughout the race. I went with 3 brands pretty much, and an extra secret weapon that I learned to use in my preparation races. So I went first with NAC, obviously. It's a brand that we all know now, and it also served me very well. I went with the different waffles that they have, the bars as well. But what was really, I think, life-changing for me was definitely the purees. These were excellent, and these I combined with the Baou brand, which is a French brand, and I think they were the first who proposed these purees, and they were excellent as well. And you see, I don't even have any to show you because I consumed them all. They were so good. So the purees were an excellent addition on the NAC side of things, following in the Baou's footsteps, I guess, because Baou were the first ones that anyway I was aware of to propose these purees, which really were excellent when when you feel like you can't eat anything anymore and it's you're a little bit feeling a little bit nauseous. Those purees were absolutely phenomenal to get something in your stomach and get those calories that you need to be able to push you forward. And so I used a combination of the Baou purees and the NAC purees for UTMB. And something else that I was using during UTMB to ensure that I maintained those calories, especially when I was having a little bit more difficulties eating a little bit more solid food, was to have their drink mix. So these drink mixes of from NAC were really good. I kept basically 1 flask with this powder and 1 flask with water, so I could have at least something, if sometimes you just don't want the taste anymore in your mouth and you just have the water there to wash it away. So I used that strategy, but I continuously drank the NAC drink mix because that was keeping the calories. It has really enough calories to keep you going without even you noticing that you're actually consuming something. So I thought that was good. And to be honest, I like the taste. They have those 2 different tastes, the watermelon and the lime, I think it is. And to be honest, I liked it and it went down extremely well. Then I was using as well the Cliff Bars. So that was just to have something different along the course, so I didn't get bored with one taste or one texture. And then I had the final piece of my nutrition, which for me was life-changing as well. And that is Shea. Sounds surprising, but the Shea was definitely a product which I found, I don't know, gave me that extra boost that I needed, especially to keep, to stay awake at night. Even though I was suffering a lot of sleep deprivation in the second night, having those little pouches of Shea helped me find a little bit more energy that was hiding within me. And I discovered that during the training and listening to different nutrition plans, and I discovered this Aztec secret weapon, which indeed actually does give you a little bit of a boost of energy and has a bit of a caffeine effect. It kept me awake because I remember when I was consuming a little bit too much Shea during my training, I found myself at night not being able to sleep, and I had like this caffeine effect, and I said that will definitely help me during UTMB, and it certainly did. So that was, I think I had two or three pouches, and then I had some in my my drop bag, definitely more than I actually needed, but when you're preparing your gear, better have more of something than not enough. I think I consumed two packs of little pouches. I didn't take very much, obviously, because you can't, it's not good to take too much of it, but a couple of tablespoons of Shea in these pouches, and that was enough to give me extra energy to grind through the difficult patches of the race. So I think that wraps up pretty much all the gear that or the important gear that I had during UTMB. And before I close this video, I just wanted to share with you a couple of other products that I used in the run-up to UTMB. I don't know if they had such a big effect. It's difficult to say, but nevertheless, this is what I used, and I guess it helped me. I used AG1, that most of you have probably heard of. So I've been having that every morning, and so far I've been feeling pretty good, so I guess it's having its effect. If you need to find any more information on AG1, again, there's loads of videos out there. I was just trying to put all the chances on my side, and therefore anything that could help me I was taking, and AG1 was one of the brands I was using every morning, and that I still use now every morning to have these complements that I think will help my body as well. And finally, during the training, what I used as well is the NAC recovery mix. I think that as well has helped my muscles recover after long and difficult training sessions. So that again, if you're looking for something to recover in your preparation, that's a pretty good product as well to orient yourself towards. So there we go. That was a quick video just to run through my gear. I hope it'll help you define your gear, and hopefully see you on the trails.